We had $1.5 million trimmed off our equity on our house block here.
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million, yeah.
Yeah, has there been a conversation where it's like, okay, I see that you're upset. I see that this is doing this kind of damage. What do you need? Like, what compensation do you need for us to be okay with following through with our rollout and that you feel like you're being compensated fairly? Like, I wonder what that conversation is.
Hello, I'm Ali Langdon. Welcome to A Current Affair. Stop steamrolling us. That's the blunt message from angry farmers fighting to save their land and livelihoods. They've united to stop a plan to build giant power lines across their properties. And the stakes are high.
It's literally...
All right, so before we jump into the full video, like, I think when it comes to the net zero rollout, like the rollout of renewables, I think this, like what's going on with farmland and regional areas, I think is probably the strongest point of contention against net zero that the government is facing. And I think it might actually have the most impact on the rollout itself, because even in the ISP, like the AMO ISP, and in the Treasury reportings, it shows that a disorderly transition, meaning, lots of roadblocks and, a lot of resistance against the rollout of renewables will impact electricity prices in the future just due to delays, foreign investors or foreign investment, domestic investment, all these sort of things will be impacted just due to this current issue that's kind of going on. And I think a big core of it is just farmers and regional property owners and stuff like that are just feeling like they're not being compensated enough, and that they're kind of, like they said, like being steamrolled, or they're being forgotten about and things like that, which I believe is warranted. So I think this is a very, very it's a tough position to be in for the government to basically try and get these farmers and that on their side for this rollout, because it's got, for net zero to work, this has to move forward. Otherwise, they're not going to have transmission lines, and then that's just going to be it. So something has to give, and I think, I think they've got to play it very, very carefully.
Sending us mad, yeah.
Farmers united in fury.
They appear to be obsessed with climate change, but totally devoid of any reality.
Trying to...
Like, I don't think it's like obsessed with climate change. Like, I think when you look at like not just globally, but like nationally in Australia, climate change is impacting like every corner of Australia. So I think as the federal government, they do need to act very, very hastily on climate change, and they need to do something. Otherwise, they're just going to, year after year, we're just going to keep having more and more disasters. It's showing that there's more and more disasters, and then the federal government has to basically come in and support every single one of them. So it does sort of make sense as to why they're taking they're being firm on net zero.
Save their farms from an ugly and uncertain future.
Piss poor planning. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Farmers here in the central west of Victoria have a pretty clear message. It's a sentiment echoed by hundreds of families, their properties in the proposed path of a monster transmission tower line. It's some of the most important agricultural land in the country, but if Canberra gets its way, a path will be carved through it to make way for an energy superhighway. It's called the Western Renewables Link, and it's got locals in a stink.
It's been extremely stressful. We feel like we've got enough burden to carry just going about our daily business.
Tom Drive says his farm's value has plummeted because of the proposed towers.
We had $1.5 million trimmed off our equity on our house block here.
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million, yep. And we've carried that loss, every emotion you could think of bar happiness. Yeah, angry, just frustrated.
And you can sort of see I would imagine the reality is for these people is, you know, the amount of stress that they're probably undergoing, you know, not just, you know, it impacting their land, but also the amount of stress that they have to go through to basically stay on top of this would be hard to sort of. I think you can understand it, but I don't think you can truly understand it from their perspective, unless you're in it. So you gotta be a little compassionate there. But you know, at the same time, like this rollout has to happen. So I think you can sort of see this is the kind of transparency the government needs to have, and the amount of communication that the government needs to have with you know, whether they have it or not, I don't know. I mean, this is just one side of the coin conversation, but it needs to be there, because you never know, like they might be, I'm not saying this person specifically, but you know, there might be a lot of resistance where they just don't even want to talk about it. You know, has there been a conversation where it's like, okay, I see that you're upset, I see that this is doing this kind of damage, what do you need? Like what compensation do you need for us to be okay with following through with our rollout, and that you feel like you're being compensated fairly? Like, I wonder what that conversation is, and I wonder how it goes, and I wonder what cards the government would have to put down in order to make everyone happy.
And no one cares.
He and his wife recently built their dream home in Glendaruel, north of Ballarat, their little piece of paradise complete with the perfect view.
Okay, I've made this argument before, but like, so this land here, very, very beautiful. Nice green, trees, nice sky, blah, blah, blah. On a good sunny day, this would be absolutely epic, or like a good sunset, sunrise, whatever way they're facing. You know, you can move out here and then buy this big block of land, have this beautiful view. And then if they end up putting like transmission lines through here, it's kind of like, you know, I understand that you can be upset about that because now it's blocking your view. But mate, like I bought an apartment in the city once, and I had a beautiful panoramic view, and then, you know, 6 months later an apartment block got built right next to me, and then that blocked my whole view. It's kind of like these things change, and it's like when it comes to a developing modern world, you know, these things are going to happen. Like your views, if your fundamental argument is, oh, now it's blocking my view, I'm sorry, but like, I feel like that's just not a strong enough argument nowadays for what is needed for the future. I'm not saying that it's, you know, like harden up, but like, I'm just sort of saying, you know, a lot of people are going through the same issues anywhere where they live. Like, it's just population's getting bigger, energy requirements are getting different. You know, we're having to change to a low emission, energy source. So like, you know, it's just, it sucks, but it's just the reality sometimes, you know?
So this is your beautiful view here, but not for long.
No, once the power lines go up, the trees are about 35 metres, the towers will be well over twice as high as the trees, yep. We position the house to take advantage of the views, and they are just going to be destroyed by 80 metre high towers.
See, like, I don't think that, like, it sucks. Like, I'm trying to, like, not sound too much like a dick, but, you know, it sucks that they're going to have, like, these, like, thingos across here now. But, you know, stopping or delaying the, like, or saying that they're not welcome, or maybe he's not saying they weren't welcome, but, like, you know, doing a huge amount of damage to the rollout and the impact that has on all Australians because your view is blocked. I think, you know, I'm not saying for this guy alone, but like, I'm sure there's like others on the same point. But I think just because your view is now blocked, I don't think that's an argument against the rollout of net zero. That's just me though. Like, I think I only say this because, you know, I've lived in a lot of places in the city and suburbs, and then next minute someone builds a 2-story house next to you, then that blocks your view. Or someone builds an apartment block right next to you, that blocks your view. Like, these things happen everywhere. I mean, it's not like all your view is blocked. You're just going to have transmission lines.
AusNet has the tender to build the project. The proposed power line stretches 190 kilometres from Bulgana to Sydenham, designed to transport renewable energy across the state. Locals have been fighting against it for years, farmers refusing to let the company onto their land to plan the project.
I've just asked one question of the politicians: what are we going to eat?
For spud farmer Kevin Mayer, the biosecurity risk is one of his major concerns.
How are we going to have a clean biosecurity farm when we've got hundreds of concrete trucks transversing, hundreds of workers transversing, and we're supposed to keep viruses and keep a healthy crop profile? How is that going to be at all possible?
He says farmers feel forgotten and taken for granted.
Well, a lot of the kids think there's a cow out the back of Coles. Simple, but it's that we all know that the dairy farmer are working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to milk the cows to provide farm fresh milk.
The Prime Minister visited Ballarat last month, his car chased out of town by angry farmers.
Yeah, I think they addressed some of that in the recent agriculture sector plan. Probably should go back and read it on that bit, but you know, I guess the biosecurity for agriculture is definitely needs to be taken with a lot of care. I think I don't know. I don't know about anyone else, but you can comment if you have. But I feel like over the last few years, I've seen more and more foods be recalled off the shelf than ever before. But maybe it's just because I've been paying attention to it more. But you know, it kind of does. You know, when it comes to biosecurity, I think it's such a hot issue, especially with the new import of US beef now. That biosecurity has been a very, very hot topic over the last few months too. So
on tractors, while this message to AusNet has become a local tourist attraction.
It's brainless. Most people would first and foremost protect the food security of a nation.
Potato farmer Kane Richardson says there's support for a below-ground plan, which would cost significantly more money, but he says presents less problems for the future.
Splits our farm in pretty much half, creates a lot of liability and work-safe issues, creates devaluation of property issues, can potentially create contract reliability issues.
He says he was recently paralysed from the waist down because of the ongoing stress of the project.
Health-wise, been horrendous. I
feel like this is what I was saying before about the mental health aspect. I think, you know, you can never really know what effect it's going to have, and it kind of sounds like it might have hit this guy pretty hard.
I landed myself having to learn to walk again through infection of the spinal fluid related to stress.
Farmers are preparing to formally present their case against the project. One of the main arguments is the towers will make the bushfire season far more dangerous.
You can't send fire crews in under the power lines in heavy smoke.
When the fire siren goes off, it's not the politicians on the back of the truck, it's blokes like me who give up their time freely to do that for our neighbours and to help our friends and neighbours so they don't get burnt out.
In a statement, AusNet told A Current Affair,
AusNet is committed to supporting landholders throughout the process. This is critical infrastructure to support Victoria's transition away from ageing coal-fired power stations.
AusNet offered compensation to farmers for access to their land and for the devaluation, but Tom says it doesn't add up.
Yeah, we haven't taken them up on the offer because it's...
Is it insulting?
It's absolutely insulting, yeah. Yep. So you might get a payment of 50 grand after they've hit you with a $1.5 million loss to your equity. Not exactly enticing, no.
Farmers just...
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, you know, similar to what I was saying before, and you know, haven't actually heard too much on, like, this is, I guess this is what's not annoying, but like, I think what the IPA is doing, you know, they claim to be doing a lot of research or, you know, doing some surveying. I believe they said that, like, with farmers and, you know, the scenarios that they're going through, but I actually haven't, I mean, it's good that Current Affair have done this, but I haven't read too many cases yet where this has happened, and I'm interested to see what, like, how the devaluation is actually happening. Like 1.5 million lost in property value, and the transmission lines aren't even there yet. So, like, I just have questions. And then, like he said, you know, he just basically didn't even respond to it. So, because the 50 grand wasn't even comparable to the, you know, alleged 1.5 million loss. So, it's kind of like, so there was a conversation there. So there's obviously something, there's a lot of information that isn't given there, but obviously summarized for this short clip. So yeah, it's hard to know which side of the fence to be on for that because, yeah, I guess you don't have enough information yet.
Want the government to listen and the people of Australia to understand their plight.
We're not mad people ranting on about nothing. Our issues are legitimate issues that aren't getting covered at the minute. And stop just steamrolling us. Come out and listen to us.
So I'm actually curious to know what are the, like, okay, if we just sort of like think about it, what are possibly, like, from what I understand, there's like the key issues that they're having from this clip alone is they don't want transmission lines above ground because it ruins their view. I've definitely understood that. And then that apparently devalues their property because now they don't have this massive view. And then, they'll have possibly wind farms there, like in their like backyard. They'll have transmission lines, maybe, depending on where they are. So that devalues their property. Okay. Second is they don't want people to be on their land doing the surveying. Okay. I think there was more to that. I can't remember. Yeah, because I think they was it like a couple of months ago they signed that new policy in Victoria where if they don't let them onto their land, then they can be fined or something. That's a bit of I think that's a very, very that would fucking suck. And then third point I hear is the biosecurity around the food. Like obviously with all the trucks driving around and doing the rollout and stuff, then their stock is at risk of contamination and stuff like that, which would then obviously have a direct input into their cash flow, or their business. So I think those are the three main arguments I hear from this. And then I guess the government isn't really according to them, the government isn't listening to their concerns. That's sort of what I can hear from. I think this is this is a very high emotionally charged conversation, because you do sort of hit like, farmers band together to halt power line plan. Like the word farmers in Australia, like, protect our farmers, backbone of this country. Talk about, food and milk and all that sort of stuff. And, you kind of feel sorry for farmers having to put in like very, very hard work and then get treated this way. I think that's the conversation that is sort of going on. But then the other side of the coin, the government is trying to tackle climate change, which is a nationwide problem. And they're also having to tackle the economic issues related to the problem too, in terms of, manufacturing and the energy industry as a whole, trying to keep investors happy, making sure that, China doesn't take over all of our, like infrastructure and things like that, for the rollout of renewables. So, there's a lot of issues that the government is just trying to tackle, like just related to climate change and net zero. So yeah, I don't know, it's a hard conversation to have, but at least they're having it. But like this guy, or a lot of them are saying, doesn't sound like there's a lot of transparency around it, from their point of view. Doesn't sound like there's enough compensation from their point of view. And even the ISP, like the AMO ISP and Treasury report, even list out that a disorderly transition is going to have huge, I think it's like 17% increase in energy prices by 2030, and then a further like 37 or 40% by like 2040 if it's a disorderly rollout, which these kind of issues are going to impact that. So I wouldn't be surprised if, this kind of thing circulates more as time goes on. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And don't mess with our farmers. Keep up the good fight, guys, and let's hope that...
So that's what I mean. Don't mess with the farmers. Keep up the good fight. So you can really tell that, like,
They are paying attention.
You can really tell that like the emotional reactive sort of response to this kind of story is to feel for the farmers. With that, and then the government is always painted as the bad person in pretty much most most conversations. So yeah, I think it's going to be very, very tough. But we'll just keep an eye on this. It's hard to know which side of the fence to be on for this.